All right, I think we are going to get started here. So thank you everybody for attending. This is the third in our webinar series around Iconik. This is a getting started webinar. What Mattia and I are going to show off today is literally starting from scratch with a brand new domain, adding some content to the system, sharing some content around, and doing that across multiple geographies quickly. With me, I have Mattia Variale. He is our EU sales manager, and I'm Mike Smolinsky. I'm the chief commercial officer. And we're going to show you real quick here as well what our infrastructure looks like on this existing webinar. So I am in Detroit currently. I've got my laptop here. I've got some shared storage here in Detroit as well, and an Iconik storage gateway computer connected to that we're going to set up. We also have a Backblaze cloud bucket connected, or not connected yet, but will be connecting. And then Mattia is actually in Vienna, and he has his laptop, and he has a little bit of data on that as well. And that's it for our slide deck. So I think without further ado, I am going to hand over the screen share to Mattia so that he is able to go ahead and show you how to get started.
Yeah, thanks, Mike, and hello everyone from this side of the pond as well. Thanks for joining us. Yes, Mike mentioned we'll be setting up a brand new domain from scratch. And since this whole Corona crisis, we actually have a blog post on our website, which is still live today, where you or your customers or prospecting clients can use a referral link to sign up. And it comes with $300 worth of free credits, which is about enough to for a team of 5 to work for a month, or for just a couple of people for a bit longer. So if you want to do that, you can head over to our blog, and right here in the first half, you can click on the link to start your free trial. So I'm going to pretend to be a completely new customer now and sign up for a brand new domain. And I'm going to add this and create a password. And Mike and I today are employees of Omnicore. And hit next, and you can see here the referral code work from home 2020 is pre-filled, which gives us those 300 credits. So I am in Austria. There we go, and finish. So what this does is it'll shoot out an email to my inbox to verify my domain. So when that is done, I'm going to head over to my inbox, make sure email arrived. If it doesn't show up on your within a couple of minutes, it's always best to check the spam folder. If it doesn't pop up, then email us quickly, and we can forward you the sign-up link. Let me refresh my inbox. There we go. So it already showed up on my end. My computer's a little slow here today. And the email looks like this.
I think there's a little delay in your screen share right now.
Oh, it must be real.
Like a good,
yeah.
Good, like, there we go. We're just now seeing your email.
Email is loading. Might be a little lag on my. I'm back.
Ah, he is back. Okay.
Yeah. So there was a complete blackout and the line went on, but I'm on my phone now, so we're back.
All right.
So sorry for that small delay. Here we are again. Trying to confirm our domain. Let me just open up that email. Here we are. Now it's working. So let me share my screen again. There we are. All right. So this is what the email looks like. Again, if it doesn't show up on your end, check your spam folder or give us a shout. Easy as a click. And we're going to go back to Safari. and sign in with the credentials that we just created. I'll just type in my email right there. And password. Here we are. So this is our very first domain, our terms and conditions that we will thoroughly read and accept. And the very first time you log in, there's a little pop-up. It'll show you the links to some quick help how to set up the users, making user groups, the help section with the quick start guide and our technical documentation. But we will be going through this with you now, so we won't be needing that. First thing I am going to do, since we are not Iconik today, we're Omnicore, I will change our system logo to our company picture and resize it so that it's nice and snug. There we are, and save that. And since Mike and I are going to be collaborating on a few files today, I'm going to set up a user for him as well so that he can log in into my same account and we can work together today. So there's different types of users. In this case, I'll make Mike a power user and give him admin access so he has the same privileges as I do, and give him a password as well that I will share with him on chat. Make sure everything's correct. Mike, everyone, power user, admin, and go. So there we are. We have Mike and myself in the Omnicore Iconik domain, and there's no files. And since Mike has some assets he'd like to share with me, I'm going to shoot it over back to Mike, and we'll take it from there.
Yep, so I'm going to steal the screen share here real quick, and I'm going to fire up my Safari, and I'm going to log in. And we'll notice I get prompted with the terms and conditions as well. We can already see the logo that Mattia has put into the corner here. And the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to be working together. So I'm going to set up some notifications. You can see that I don't have any notifications set up. So I'm going to simply click See All Notifications, go to Settings. I'm just going to get notifications for everything in the web so that as Mattia does things, I'm going to be notified of what's going on with those various different things and as the system does things as well. Now, the next thing I'm going to want to do is make some metadata. So we've got in the system when we ship it, a concept of views and fields. Fields go into views, views are what the user sees. So by default, when you just open up a new Iconik account, you're just going to have very simple metadata structure. It's going to be called default, and it's going to have description and tags and nothing else in it. But I'm going to create a few new fields right now. So I'm going to go to my field section. I'm going to create a new metadata field, and I'm going to call that field keywords. And I'm going to make that a tag cloud field type. And I am going to create that. And I'm going to make a new field, a new metadata field here, and we're going to call it department. And this one's going to be a drop-down menu, and I'm going to add some options to it because this is a fixed list. So I'm going to say R&D, and I'm going to say production and marketing for our different departments. I create that. I'm going to add a new field called release date, and that is going to be a date type field, and I'm going to create that. And then last but not least, I'm going to make a flag safe or not safe for release. And I'm going to make that a yes/no field or a Boolean field and hit create. And now I'm going to add those into my view. So if I go to views really quickly and click back on my default view, we'll see now that our fields are over along the side here and we can add them to our view. So I'm just going to quickly add all of these. And the other thing you're going to notice here is that I've got a keywords field and a tags field. Well, the tags field is actually used by Iconik itself when we do AI tagging and object recognition. and we can use it for other things as well. So in this case, I'm going to actually change this to be auto tags, because I'm not going to ever actually use that myself. I'm just going to let the system itself do that. And the other thing I'm going to do actually is, in this view, I'm not going to show it for anybody unless there's actually data inside that field. The next thing I'm going to do is create some dividers to make this a little cleaner. So I'm just going to drag down my divider here, and I'm going to make one called descriptive metadata. And then we'll make another one that is release info. And then last one, which would be corporate. And now I'm going to actually shuffle these around a little bit inside our view. So I'm going to put the department underneath corporate. I'm going to put our not safe for release and release date into there. And then I'm going to put our keywords up underneath description. So we've completely reorganized our metadata schema now and made it available within the system. And then what I'm going to do is actually toss control back over to Mattia now, so that he can add the first item into the system. So I'm going to stop my screen share, toss it over to Mattia.
And I'll start mine. Here we are. And as you can see, there's still no assets in here, but Mike created some metadata fields. And what I'm going to do is head over to the upload section of Iconik. And without having to set up anything right from the bat, I can go ahead and drag and drop a file into Iconik. And we can see it right here. So it's one of our company logos. And before uploading, I can actually click here and edit metadata, and I can see the fields that Mike just created. And I can add some information before the file gets uploaded. So this is a logo for OCP. I'm going to add some keywords: logo, marketing, OCP, final. Auto tags are not needed in this case, and I'm going to give it today's release date and give it to the marketing department. Then click on update. There we go. And you can see the destination is in the Iconik files cloud bucket. I'm going to upload this. And while this is going, Mike can already take over back control and do some work on the assets I uploaded and set up some more things.
Yep, so we're going to kick back over to the US here. And if I go take a look inside here, we can actually see that Mattia's asset is in the process of being uploaded right now. He's in Vienna, I'm in Detroit. I'm already seeing his content, and within a few seconds here, we're going to start to see the proxy of this item be generated. We can start tagging it with metadata, or see the metadata that's been tagged by simply opening up the asset metadata field, so I can see all of the information associated with that as well. Now, what we might want to start doing here is, underneath our administrative section, add storage that isn't the Iconik storage, because we've uploaded that particular item here to our included Iconik storage. But a lot of our customers use third-party storage like Amazon S3 or Google Cloud Storage, Microsoft Azure, and Backblaze B2. So what I'm going to do is add a Backblaze bucket at this point to the system. So I'm going to go to my storages as an admin, and I'm going to say new storage. I'm going to call this Backblaze bucket. And storage purpose is going to be for files, and it is going to be a Backblaze B2. I'm going to hit next, and I'm going to copy and paste some information that I collected before the start of the webinar here. So I'll grab our key ID and go here, and don't use that Safari. Key ID is here. And I'm just going to allow full access to that bucket. I'm going to be able to scan information into that bucket, and I'm going to add some metadata tags into our auto tags section as well, based on the folder tree. I'm going to let everybody in the system see anything that gets scanned in from that bucket, and I'm going to add in collection directory mapping. And we can go into this a little bit more depth, so you guys can read the manual to understand some of the more advanced things here. But I'm going to go ahead and hit create. And what this is going to do is go into Backblaze and check to make sure that that bucket exists and that the permissions are good. And I can hit finish now. And I also have that Backblaze bucket connected to just via CyberDuck here. So we can see that there's some data already in this location. So a lot of JPEGs, a couple of small videos, that sort of thing. And if I want to bring that stuff into Iconik right now, I can actually just simply click the scan button. And what this will do is actually go into the Backblaze bucket and find all of those files and start bringing them into Iconik. And if we watch our jobs section, we will actually see that the scan of the Backblaze bucket has started, and it's starting to bring in files already. So it's already brought in our first file. So while we're letting that scan complete, what I can do is also allow Mattia now to upload content to a Backblaze bucket too. So I'm going to stop my share and kick it back over to him. And now from his side of the world, he can log into Iconik and select from his uploader now.
Yeah, so thank you, Mike. As you can see, the assets that Mike uploaded are being indexed and the proxy being created. But what I'm going to do is add my own assets from my laptop to the B2 bucket. And I have some video files here that I'm going to drag in. We can see them here. And what I want to do is actually add some metadata to these. So this is some B-roll that I have from our OCP projects. I'm not going to give it a description because each one is going to be separate, but give it some keywords, some B-roll, marketing, and we'll call it, what else? We'll call it also OCP videos. And again, just for posterity, give it today's date. And this is all actually R&D footage, not marketing. There we go. And as you can see here, we have two storage destinations now. We have the Iconik files where I uploaded the TIFF file earlier, but we also have the Backblaze bucket that I can select and upload. And now these will be uploaded via Iconik to Backblaze directly and not to the Google storage. What we can also do is attach and scan and index local storages. And for this, Mike has a NAS attached to his home office in Detroit, which he will connect to our Iconik account so we can start working with some local assets as well.
Yep, so I will take over screen sharing here really quickly. And we can see now back on my screen in Detroit, all of this stuff is getting scanned in and uploaded and all that sort of fun stuff. But what I'm going to actually do here is connect to a machine that I have set up. And this is a remote desktop share to another Mac that I've got in my office here. And you'll notice that there's a NAS mounted. I have some data here, and I've actually already downloaded the Iconik storage gateway. But if you're a new user to Iconik, you can actually just connect to app.iconik.io/help, type in ISG, and right there it gives you all of the downloaders and all the install instructions for all of the various different tools. I simply I already installed the local transcoding options on this machine because it does take a few minutes to do that by following these instructions. And I've already downloaded this file. I'm just going to simply start from scratch, double clicking it. So I'm going to go over here and double click our install Iconik storage gateway and go through the installation process here. And go ahead and click install. And as soon as the Iconik storage gateway finishes installing, it'll actually pop up our Iconik storage gateway wizard on Mac and Windows. And this will just ask you a few questions to set up a new storage. So I'm going to go ahead and click next. And it's going to say, hey, we need you to log in to, webinar. We need you to log into Iconik so that we can validate your domain. And it says, are you sure you want to allow the storage gateway to run? I say, yep, that's no problem. And if I hop back to my storage gateway, you'll notice it's already hopped over to the next section. I'm going to set up a new Iconik storage gateway. I'm going to call this the Super Mega Happy Mac ISG, and I'm going to choose our folder here, which is on our NAS, that has a bunch of content in it. Select that, and hit next, and hit finish. And that's all there is to it. So with that done, you'll notice now that our storage gateway is installed on this Mac. And if we take a look at the service logs, we'll actually see that it is starting to talk to Iconik, and it is already starting to generate objects and information, generate proxies, the whole deal. And if I close my remote machine now, come back to my primary machine, you'll notice that there is a new collection that got created called Storage Gateways. And inside that is my Super Mega Happy Mac ISG. And inside there are a lot of the different folders of the content that we are bringing into the system right now with the Storage Gateway. So what's able to be done now is I can actually, browse through a variety of this content directly and see, based on the objects that are getting created, which it's actually probably backlogged because we're still bringing in all of our content from the Backblaze bucket right now. But when that clears up, we'll be able to actually start seeing things show up from our storage gateway as well. Our folder tree's been built and the objects are being ingested in real time in the background right now. So what I'm going to do now is let Matthias start to show off some of the abilities around organization. And he's going to create some collections in his world and organize some of that content we've brought in from Backblaze and our NAS.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. Here, I'm going to go back to the search section, and in my collections, I can see the storage gateway that Mike created. And we have the Backblaze bucket from earlier that was created. So I'm going to look for some assets that Mike uploaded via the ISG, and I'm going to filter to see what kind of assets these are. And select all of these and edit some metadata. Actually, I want to see, yeah. To put these, for example, call these prototype papers. Let's see if we can type prototype. Add these to proto and put them in the R&D department. So this will upload all the metadata for all these 34 items in bulk. I'm going to go back and check to see what else Mike added. There we are. Yeah, and what I'm going to do now is create some collections so that I can have some more organization around different types of files. And we have, for example, what we did earlier, we wanted to organize some B-roll assets. I'm going to add that as a collection so we can add assets to this later. And a PR and marketing collection for some of our press items. And we also have some new products that we want to show off. And if we want to share a full collection with somebody outside our organization, we can actually just create a collection with all the assets in there and share that as a whole. So we'll call this one new product release. There we go. Now we have 3 separate collections and we'll start filling these out. So for example, we can look for B-roll and make sure we only get the video files here in the filters. We can further down filter out the search patterns that we had here. So we can take these and drag them over just simply by drag and drop to our B-roll. What else we want? We want, for example, our new product release, which was our Rev B product. We have to go back into the tree, otherwise you won't find it. All right, come on, there we go. Rev B, and we can actually do a Boolean search for the ED209. There we are. And we can see these are some of our new products that Omnicorp is launching. And I want these to be in the new product release. We also have some news footage. There we go. So we want these, but only the video to be available in the PR and marketing collection. So we can see here we have some organization around our collections. And what I'm going to do is share back one of these with Mike so that he can see the collection that I created. I can click here on these three dots and share a full collection. And I'm going to take Mike as a user. These can be either users or actual email addresses of people that are outside your organization. It could be a PR agency, for example, that doesn't have an account. And I'm going to say, hey, Mike, what do you think of this role for the production team? Is it good? And I can have him see metadata or not, but since he's an admin user, he'll always be able to see it, but I'll add it anyway, and send it over. And Mike will receive an email that I shared this collection, and also his little bell will pop up and say, hey, Mattia shared something with you, and he can show you now that actually that came over. And I'm going to stop my share and hand it over back to Mike.
Yep, so I will share my screen again really quickly here. And from my side of things, we can show off that I got an email from Mattia here. And it says, hey, you want to visit your share? And I can simply click that. And it'll take me right into the collection of items that he shared. And now I can click into one of these items, and I can start to watch the proxy associated with these. So I can kind of scrub back and forth and see if this is the clip I want, cut back and forth between the various different items in the share. I can make comments on those, so I can mark an in point here and make an out point there and say, you know, cop car is a little grungy. Let's not use this shot, and mark it red. Hit submit. That puts in some time-based metadata, that sort of thing, and can continue to kind of browse through these, maybe, you know, view some more. Here's the same shot at night. You know, I like this one. Mark it green. Now, the other thing I'd have the ability to do is if this content lives in cloud storage, I could actually download the original high res. I can see information about that file. So I can see that this is an XDCAM clip and all the kind of associated metadata with that item that was built into the file itself. And I can download the high res or the low res. So maybe I'm just doing a presentation here. I like this one. I'm going to just download the low res. And voila, right here in my Finder, I've got access to that low-res file now, and I can open it up and work with it. Now, the other thing I can do is go into Iconik here, and what I'm going to do is actually toss back some information to Mattia. So I've made some notes. He'll be able to see the notes on the collections and things along those lines. And we can also see quite a few of the notifications that have come in, transcode jobs finishing, shares happening, that sort of thing that comes into my notifications log here. But what I think I'm going to actually do is try to find a clip that we're going to use for some review and approve workflows. And what we'll do is send that to Mattia, and he'll be able to actually view the clip, but it'll actually start a formal review and approve process around it. So I'm going to go to our announce video here, and I'm going to actually start a approval process. So I'm going to say request approval, and I'm going to go to Mattia, and I'm going to let him see all the metadata, and I'm going to let that link work only for the next 2 days because this is highly critical stuff. And I am going to hit send, and I'm also going to flag some metadata as well while I'm sending that over to him really quickly. So I'll select some metadata, hit update. I'll say this is for the production team. All right, and so now I can turn over the share back to Mattia, and he'll have a notification for that clip.
That's right, and in the meantime, my email already beeped saying Mike S shared an asset with you, but since I'm logged in, I can actually just see it right here through my notifications. It says Mike S requested a review of announce. I can right click it. It takes me right to the asset. I can see here on the top left that it's awaiting my review. I can see the metadata that Mike added. I can add any comments if need be. But I'm going to just watch this and see sort of what the video is about. And just scroll through real quick since it's quite a long video. And see it's a scene with our new product. And all right, see there's something missing in the middle, so we can't really have this for release. Just as Mike did, I'm going to set an in and out point as well. And tell Mike, hey, there is something missing here. And I'm going to submit this in red because it's also important. There we go. We see the comment that I made. And right here, I'm going to reject Mike's approval request to make sure that he receives a notification back from me saying there's something missing. And you can see right here with this little red dot or through the comments that I made a comment in the section that that I had an issue with in this review and approve process. And if Mike gets it back, you can see my comment and my rejected RNA process.
Yep, so I'm gonna hop back to my system now, and we'll notice up in the corner here, I got a notification that he's made a comment and he's rejected this clip in our notifications. I can hop into that clip really quickly here, and I can take a look at the comments, time-based comments, says, hey, something's missing here. I can play that. Okay, and I can say, you know what? Don't worry about it. Hit reply. And now he's got a notification about the reply to the comment, and we've just collaborated around this entire clip. So kind of a high-level overview. In the last 33 minutes, we went from not having an Iconik domain at all to having a domain, having multiple users in it, adding media from both internal cloud buckets, externally supported cloud buckets, and on-premise storage, started review processes, and shared with external stakeholders. So that's kind of our high level for today and getting started. I think at this point, we'll dive into some of the Q&A section of the system. And let's see, so let's dive in. Alan asks, when you say bring in, do you mean that it catalogs and creates proxies, or is it moving from Backblaze to some other storage in Iconik? So it is actually doing the cataloging in real time. We're reading in that data, and in the cloud transcoding the proxies. Iconik will store the proxies inside of our storage, but your original storage stays inside of Backblaze. So your high-res assets never need to move, and you can use external third-party storage for your cloud storage. So you do not need to use Iconik storage for high-resolution cloud storage. Ben asks, can you show how to have Iconik scrape info from file metadata like resolution, frame rate, file format, etc.? Would love to have a bunch of fields auto-populated. So I will share out my screen really quickly here and show you exactly how that works. So I can hit share. And if we go into our admin panel here, when we're creating metadata fields, if we create a new metadata field, we actually have the ability on that field to inherit from any embedded XMP, IPTC, or EXIF field that exists within that file. And you can see this is basically all of the variety of EXIF and XMP fields that have already been scraped from the system in just the last 30 minutes. And we can apply any of those to a field so that future items would get that to automatically applied. So that's how you would accomplish that in our world. Let's see. Jeff, okay, Mattia is going to handle that one. Actually, Mattia, do you want to handle Jeff's question?
Yeah, just real quick. Yeah, Jeff asked, hello, the team and I would love to see the interaction with Adobe Premiere, working with proxies and then onlining with raw footage. This is something Iconik does extremely well, and we actually had a webinar together with Tim a few weeks ago regarding this. So I can point to you to the recording of that webinar, which is very which explains the process. And in a second moment, you can also check back with us, and we can do a Q&A or a demo on a specific process if you need to.
Yep, so that webinar recording is actually available at iconik.io. If you click on blog here and then click on our webinar series, you'll see it's actually right at the bottom of the webinar series, but there's also a link to it right below. And all of our webinars will be recorded for the entire series, so you can come back and check in on this page. And if you'd like to sign up for all of them, you can also check in here as well. So the full online overview of the edit workflow is already available. The new features that we're releasing in June are available to watch, and then this webinar itself obviously will be done as soon as we get it exported here. All right, so Daniel asks, what are the differences between the cloud edge transcoder and a local transcoder on a storage gateway? So the local transcoder is actually running on the storage gateway or on premise where the storage lives. We support running our internal storage gateway transcoder, which runs on the box itself, or we support external third-party transcoders such as FFmpeg, or I'm sorry, not FFmpeg, such as Vantage, Elemental Server, and we've got a few more in the pipeline for that. Edge transcoders actually run in cloud infrastructure. Their purpose is, let's say you already have a very large amount of data in Amazon's S3 infrastructure, and egressing it to generate proxies may cost you a lot of money into our cloud. So you can actually fire up what we call an Iconik edge transcoder, and that will run in EC2, assuming you're in Amazon's world. And then there's no egress to read the high-res data in. There's only egress for the proxy itself to store it in our storage. So that's the difference between those two. Mattia?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, Trevor asks, how does downloading high-res from ISG work? Is it direct or does it need cloud storage to upload to first? Good question. So it always, if you don't have access to the ISG itself, it always does need to go to a cloud bucket first. We have a perfect example here. So Mike has a NAS attached to his computer in Detroit, and I'm here in Vienna. I have no access at all to either the assets on that NAS or to the NAS itself. And if I share my screen out again, we can go back into our domain, and we can see right here, if I go into the storage gateway and super mega happy Mac ISG, and we can look at commercial, for example. If I open up one of the assets, we can see that the original file is an XTCAM HD35. It's 90 megabytes large, and it's sitting in Mike's ISG. And what I can do, though, is through Iconik, I can request the original file to be uploaded to the cloud so that then I can download it here in Vienna across the ocean. And that's it. So it's easy as a click. It'll request, so Iconik will start a request to the ISG to upload that to the cloud. And then as soon as that's ready, I can download it as if it were in the Iconik cloud.
Cool. So Ben asks, how does the ISG deal with XML sidecar files? I tried importing a folder of MP4 files and their associated XML files and brought in the XML assets, which I don't want. All right, so there's a couple of things here. First of all, XML is a universal format, so you can't just throw any old XML at it because we'd have no idea what the heck that means, because XML can be literally any format inside of a spec. What you can do, however, is use sidecar XML or JSON, and if it meets the format and the spec that we have, it will associate with the asset and import the metadata. Now, there are a few things you have to do to make that work. So if you are in Iconik itself, when you are creating your Iconik storage gateway or a cloud storage bucket, because this does work with cloud storage as well, you will notice that there is a section down here that is for sidecar metadata view. And what you need to do is, because Iconik works with the concept of views, access rights to views, and has actually very powerful and granular access controls for everything, you need to say what view your sidecar metadata file maps to and associate it here and update the storage. And then in addition to that, your file needs to be in a supported format. So we support JSON, XML, and CSV. I've got a pretty quick example JSON file I can show quickly here. Let's see, example JSON. So if we take a look at this, we can see that it's just a standard JSON file that has the field name, field values. If you have fields with multiple value types, each one of them separated out into its own JSON dict. If you need help with formatting this in XML or formatting this in CSV, just open a support ticket with us. We'll point you to the documentation and get that going. All right, so Richard asks, in times of poor internet performance, is it possible to have a local copy of the proxy to use for editing? The answer is yes. So this is just an option that you would have to turn on. So when we create transcoders for storage gateways, and we create them automatically for you out of the box, but if you go in, there is an actual optional uh, field here that is directory for edit proxies. And this is relative to the root of your storage gateway. So if you wanted to, if your storage gateway is that /volumes mysan projects, and this would be at /volumes mysan projects /proxies. If, for example, if you update that, what'll happen is when we generate the proxies, we will also keep a local copy for them, and we will register them into Iconik as Premier Pro proxies as well, so that they'll be switchable proxies for local storage. So yes, that is doable. Let's see. So Ben asks, for a large back catalog of video assets, is it more efficient to create proxies and bring in assets into Iconik via Backblaze or via a local file server running the ISG? Really depends on how you want to accomplish things. Obviously, if you're using Backblaze or Amazon or Google to store that large amount of data, the benefit is that we have auto-scaling transcoders in the cloud, and we're going to scale up a bunch of jobs and make sure that's running 24/7 for you. The downside is that you are obviously going to pay egress in all cases but a few, depending on your storage provider, to read those files once in our cloud transcoder. So if you have a really powerful on-premise system, it might be more efficient to actually do it on-premise. If not, the cloud's going to be technically more efficient, but will cost more in most cases. And again, that's depending on your efficiency of getting data into the cloud. Backblaze offers their Fireball product. Google offers their Cold Snap, and there's the Snowball from Amazon. So you have ways of getting large amounts of data via FedEx into the cloud if you have a large backlog. Let's see, next up, Danielle asks, can I get a custom transcoding on the fly? So get a PNG for a JPEG. So not with out-of-the-box functionality currently, but our API does support that. We have what we call custom actions within the system. So you can go and create a custom action, and a custom action, we will call this export to PNG. That is going to send the context of the that particular asset that's selected to a external post location, which then you can have your own.
Your screen isn't shared, Mike.
Oh, my screen isn't shared. Sorry about that, guys. I'll show this really quickly. So if we share this out again, so what I've done is gone into my admin section and then selected the custom actions on the side and said, created one called export to PNG. And what that does will send all the context about that asset to an endpoint. And then you can develop your own tools using our API to look up that file, pass it to any transcode service you want, create any new files, and then theoretically use the API to register those as new formats and shapes into Iconik, or just deliver them. And now that I've added that in the system on any asset I click, you can see there's a button now that says what I wanted. Now, if I click it, nothing's going to happen because I haven't actually tied it to any API logic yet. But adding in new logic and custom functionality to Iconik is pretty simple out of the box. Let's see. Could you, Virginia asks, could you reference documents, e.g. transcripts? So yes, absolutely. There's no problem with PDFs, doc files, those sorts of things within Iconik. We've brought in nothing but rich media in this case, images and video, but any file type is supported within Iconik, so you can do that. Also, it might be worth checking out our new features release if transcription is of interest, because we did show off our new transcription feature, which allows AI auto transcription of assets in the system, download of text files, download of VTT files, closed captioning, those sorts of things.
Yeah. And that answers Richard's question in a bat as well. So that's coming up in the next release, Richard.
Yep. Yeah, so I'll point you, Richard, as well to our previous webinar if you want to see that live in action. Our target release is in June, early June for that, so not too far away. Brian asks, what are the issues using Adobe Team projects? Admittedly, there were no issues using Adobe Team projects until the latest release of Premiere. Well, the previous release of Premiere, in which case actually Adobe stripped a lot of information out of project files when they were getting uploaded. We've submitted bug releases or bug trackers to them to try to get that fixed. As the new version of Premiere literally just dropped yesterday, we haven't had a chance to fully test it. But if you are on a version of Premiere previous to 14.0, Team Projects actually does work, no problem within Iconik. If you're at 14.0 to current, 14.0 to the release yesterday, we know doesn't work. We haven't validated the latest release because it's brand spanking new. Vicente asks, can you limit the access of certain collections and folders to specific users within the account? Yes, you can. So I'll share my screen out again really quickly here. So in any case, we've got not only assets themselves, which can have ACLs or access controls associated with them. So I can go in here and say, hey, you know what? Mattia and all the people in the access to all functionality need to have read access to this. And I can modify the rights on all of those items. We can also do that on collections. So I could go into my, my collections here and say this B-roll collection, you know, I only want to give, oh, I already gave remote access to that one. But for maybe the PR marketing one, I could actually say, I want to actually remove Mattia's access from that collection and actually the everyone permissions as well. And now those people don't have access to it. Only the people in the group access to all functionality could access that PR marketing at that point. Rachel asks, we're recently working on a project using the proxies locally after downloading and the asset in Iconik. We're now having issues relinking those proxies on a different computer in a new location. Is there an easy solution for this, or is this more of a support question? Yeah, that's more of a support question, because not knowing the environment and not knowing how this Premiere editors were set up, it's a little bit difficult to troubleshoot that one really quickly. So Rachel, I'd point you to iconic-support@iconic.io. Just shoot them an email. Feel free to CC Mattia or I if you want us to follow up on it, and we'll get you taken care of. Daniel says, thanks, would love to see a webinar dedicated to custom actions and webhooks. That's in the hopper. I might actually be starting some technical webinars or blogs that are solely around the API and things like that in the not too distant future. So we love the support there, and we're going to keep doing that. Vitaly asks, what Glacier retrieval tier does Iconik support now by default? Will differentiating of tiers be supported via the UI in the future, bulk, standard, expedited, estimated time of retrieval? So for a 101 getting started question, that's a pretty deep dive, Vitaly. But, right now, it is whatever the default bucket policy is inside of or your actual bucket. Right now, there are no immediate plans to be able to change that policy on the fly, so you have to change it at the bucket level. Retrieval time and is based on what your policy tier is, but we work on it immediately. So the system fires up a job, sends off the job to Glacier. Glacier then does its thing, and we get notified when the job is complete to start transferring it. And then Mattia.
And Keith asks, how does Iconik handle file versioning parent/child relationships? And we can show this again real quick with a screen share, since it's pretty easier than just explaining it. And so if you can all see my screen here now, for example, I can do this in different ways. I can either drag and drop an asset on top of another one. And as if you can see now, it says add as a version v.2, and I can press Alt to enable. And it'll add a new version, or I can go within an asset and there's a new version button right here. So I can upload a new asset or select an asset, and this will upload a version 2, version 3, and version 4, and so on. Parent-child relationships, we actually have a full relationship tree right here, where you can create all sorts of relationship, which is parent-child, sibling, promo of, for, product, used in, duplicate, and so on, with any other asset within Iconik. And this will obviously also link the other asset to this one.
Yeah, and those relationships, when you're using our Premiere panel, are also automatic in a lot of cases. So when you upload projects or upload assets, we create automatic relationships for content like used in and parent, or not necessarily parent-child, but product of, those sorts of things. So yeah, I think that is all. Oh, we got one new from Virginia asks, could you reference integrating external work order editing and requests into an Iconik workflow? So again, our API is exceptionally open. Everything that you've seen today and everything that you'll see on all our webinars with our user interface, our panels, is done via our API. So we eat our own dog food, so to speak. And that API is accessible to all of our customers, all of our integration partners, and all of the third parties out there that work with us. So integrating with third-party systems, as long as they have a robust API, is oftentimes not that difficult. And generally speaking, you get to really define exactly what it is that you want to accomplish in those environments. So I would say that not knowing specifically what the order management system is or what your goals are, could it be done? Yes. How much really depends on the existing system you want, or if you want to custom build something from the ground up. And unfortunately, Richard asks API for Freshdesk. I have no idea because I'm not aware of every API out there under the sun. I wish I was. That would make me a very, very smart person and probably much more successful than I am. But with some research, we can check into that for you. Most modern software as a service platforms, not all, but most true software as a service platforms have really robust APIs like us, but it's not universal. Great. So it doesn't look like there are any more questions. So I think we will, without any more questions in the queue, Garrick asked compatibility with a file transfer system. Realistically, you don't necessarily need a file transfer system within Iconik. As far as uploading to buckets, we do direct multi-stream TCP uploads into the bucket from the client side and from the ISG. So when you're doing cloud to prem, prem to cloud, there's no need for a file transfer acceleration in most cases, unless you're maybe transferring information from one region across the world to another region across the world. But oftentimes that's faster to do a bucket-to-bucket transfer than it is to use a third-party system. When you're doing site-to-site transfers, you can use any tool you'd like to do that. The Iconik storage gateways support what we call global checksumming. And what that means is that any file that hits any storage gateway anywhere in the world gets checksummed. And then if that exact same file, regardless of its name or folder path, hits any other storage in any other method anywhere else in the world, we pick it up, checksum it, and then realize it's the same file and associate it with the same asset. So we do have customers using, point-to-point file acceleration tools across, MPLS LANs or, VPCs or things like that. And there's no real work you have to do to make that work with ISGs. They just sort of work.
And Matthew asks if this Zoom will be available online, and yes, it will, Matt. And also all the other ones we did in the last couple of weeks are all available as a recording on our Iconik blog on the website. So make sure to check it out.
And then Trevor asks, any plans to add support for Google Drive? We've looked into some of the what we would say is non-traditional cloud storage. So we support all cloud object storage pretty readily, but because Google Drive, Dropbox, Box.com, their APIs are functionally very different, we're not entirely sure we actually can integrate with them and actually maintain live visibility and scanning of the file systems without replicating 100% of the data that is in those systems. That's the way they work today. In general, you set up a machine, you say sync this folder, everything syncs, and then you have to have 100% of that storage somewhere else as well to ever actually manipulate or work with those files. But with object storage and the way we work with S3 or Google Cloud Storage, that's direct manipulation and reading of the file, so we don't have to have that. So I think we'd like to, but it's a significantly more difficult problem to overcome. Let's see. Richard asks, is there a tool interface for live production script planning with Iconik? No, not currently. We don't have anything along those lines. Great.
They don't want to let you go, Mike. They don't want to let you go.
So Oriel asks, I'm currently working on a project which I started on Iconic at home. Now I'm back in the office and I'm not able to connect the files to original files. Iconic changed names. So you have to use our Iconic panel to do the reconnects. And if you didn't add the content using the Iconic panel, we're not going to know what files you added or what names changed or anything like that. It absolutely can connect it automatically, but there is a process you have to go through to make sure that that works. We also have a project converter that's in beta. So in general, if you're having projects that you started outside of Iconic, you become a new Iconic customer and you want to convert those projects, contact support about that. But Oriel, I'd contact support and get a little bit more in depth about what your actual setup and how you did it was. And if we can help you, we will.
And Richard says, Mike's a hard man to nail down, so here we have our opportunity. Yes, you do, and you have 3 more minutes, so get all your questions in before we lose Mike forever, or at least for today.
Yeah, until I go into the black hole of phone calls for the next week. So.
Yeah.
Brian asks, is there any documentation on MP4 cloud proxy encoding settings? I'm having issues with files encoded with Vantage using CC 2020. Yeah, so the best way to actually do this, Brian, is to just upload a small file to Iconic, let our cloud transcoder generate the proxy, download it, and then use Vantage's Analyze to get all the settings for it. That's the simplest way to accomplish it. In general, our default is a 1280 by 720 progressive matched frame rate, 3 megabit target H.264. There are some with B frames disabled, but there's some other little gotchas in there like profiles and things like that. So that's the easiest way I've found to if you want to make your own proxies externally, to do that. And Matthew just actually commented to Brian and says, hey, you should check out Cubics because Vantage was having issues for them. So, and if you guys would like, feel free to both email me and I can connect you two and you can talk about that as well. All right, we've got 1 minute left. There's one last question, which is, what is my favorite beer? It's tough to call, man, but I normally go for the, well, based on the beard, you'd have to guess that I go with the, bourbon barrel-aged stouts. And being from Michigan, it'd have to probably be like KBS or CBS, something along those lines. And Richard asks, does Iconic API support representational state transfer? I'm not entirely sure what you mean there, but feel free to email me. We can take that up offline. We can dive deeper. Richard says fat tire. And then Alex says, you guys rock. Thanks again today. So appreciate it, everyone. And we are right up to the hour at this point. Everybody's got Mattia and I's contact information. If you guys have further questions or need anything else, we will post a recording of this as soon as we get it clamped out. And hopefully within 24 hours, you'll be able to review it. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.
Stay safe, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.